Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something a little different. We're going to peel back the shiny, futuristic exterior of artificial intelligence to examine its real-world supply chain. When we think of AI, we almost always picture brilliant engineers typing away in sun-drenched California offices, or maybe these massive, glowing, autonomous brains operating somewhere up in the cloud. But the source material we're diving into today completely shattered that illusion for me. We're going to map out exactly how these systems are actually produced, who prepares the billions of data points they rely on, and the heavy physical toll this technology takes on our planet.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Because, the messaging we get from Silicon Valley is incredibly seductive. Tech leaders often describe AI as this infinite, tireless workforce, a workforce that's going to drive our cars, cure diseases, and invent new molecules without even breaking a sweat. It's constantly framed as this entirely automated, clean, and independent intelligence that will just seamlessly usher humanity into a golden age.
But our source material asks a really piercing question that kind of stops you in your tracks. Are these systems actually artificial? The reality uncovered in this analysis is that AI is definitely not magic. It's just a massive amalgamation of resources, computation, and critically, human labor. Behind literally every intelligent chatbot or self-driving car is an army of invisible people doing the grinding, repetitive work necessary to make the algorithms function.
Section 1. The invisible human workforce behind the algorithm.
You see, an AI model is actually born completely empty. It doesn't inherently know what a car, a pedestrian, or an active fire looks like. It has to be taught by humans. And the sheer scale of this operation, it's absolutely staggering. According to a World Bank report highlighted in the documentary, there are estimated to be up to 430 million data workers globally. I mean, to put that into perspective, that is an unfathomable amount of people. Hundreds of millions of invisible workers are manually feeding data into these systems, drawing boxes around images, and correcting text hour after hour. Without their continuous input, these supposedly autonomous AI models would just stagnate and fail entirely.
And this creates a pretty stark economic contrast, right? On one side, we have billion-dollar corporate profits enjoyed by big tech giants up in the global north. On the flip side, we have the outsourced data workers intentionally recruited from the global south. We're talking countries like Kenya, India, Bulgaria, and Argentina. The documentary points out that these companies specifically target populations in crises economies, places where unemployment is high, labor rights are weak, and people are desperate enough to accept virtually any wage just to survive.
To put a really sharp point on this, the source shares the specific anecdote of a data worker who evaluates complex prompts. Imagine having to carefully compare two bot responses about synthesizing electric pianos. For this highly technical reading and evaluation, the worker is paid just 83 cents per task. If they actually manage to complete their strict quota of 12 tasks, they earn a grand total of $9. $9 for a full day of work. They're paid barely enough to make ends meet today, with absolutely zero safety net for tomorrow.
Section 2. The toxic toll. Cleaning the machine.
So if you've ever wondered why your chatbot is always so relentlessly polite, well, it's because humans act as a shield. The source details how vast amounts of data, including extremely dark stuff sourced right from the dark web, are basically dumped onto the screens of these outsourced workers. They do this to train the AI on what to filter out. These workers have to identify and flag keywords and imagery related to murder, physical violence, sexual abuse, and child exploitation. Sometimes, almost 100% of the content in a worker's queue is profoundly disturbing. They have to absorb the absolute worst of humanity just so that the end user in the West gets a clean, friendly AI experience.
Which brings us to a deeply sobering quote from Fine Makira, a former data worker in Kenya. She described how viewing corpses and horrific abuse day after day fundamentally changed her. She developed severe anxiety, nightmares, and depression, leading to profound social isolation. She, along with many of her colleagues, suffers from severe PTSD. The mental health toll of cleaning this data is devastating, yet these workers are entirely disconnected from the billions of dollars their labor generates.
Now, you might be wondering, if it's this bad, why don't we hear more about it? Well, the documentary explains that a culture of extreme secrecy is heavily enforced by big tech. Traumatized workers are forced to sign strict non-disclosure agreements, with some explicitly threatened with up to 10 years in jail if they speak out about what they've seen. On top of that, they face immediate termination if they attempt to unionize or collectively bargain. It is an environment of intense fear, specifically designed to keep the human cost of AI completely invisible to the public.
Section 3. The environmental cost. Gobbling up the earth.
We've all been conditioned to think of digital technology as this weightless, ethereal thing floating in the cloud. But the physical reality? It requires aggressive mineral extractivism. To manufacture the advanced chips that power AI, elements like copper, gold, cobalt, lithium, and rare earths like neodymium are quite literally ripped from the earth. And on top of that, training and running these massive warehouse supercomputers requires immense amounts of electricity and gargantuan quantities of fresh water just to keep the servers from melting down. The environmental footprint of artificial intelligence is astonishingly vast.
And this presents a really fascinating challenge for us as everyday users. As the documentary poses, is your chat prompt worth this cost? Think about it. When you ask an AI to generate a quick recipe or summarize an email, you are directly triggering a chain reaction that extracts water, burns electricity, and utilizes deeply harmful mineral supply chains. It kind of forces us to pause and ask whether the convenience we are getting is truly worth the permanent mark it leaves on the earth.
Section 4. The Utopian Justification. Silicon Valley's Ideology.
So how do tech empires morally defend all this damage? Well, the documentary introduces us to a fascinating, highly influential, and arguably elitist ideology prevalent in Silicon Valley. It's called long-termism, often grouped under the acronym TESCRL. And this brilliantly illustrates the philosophical framework driving the industry. It basically operates on the belief that the ultimate goal of humanity is to build artificial general intelligence, radically re-engineer the human body, and colonize the known universe to create a multi-galactic post-human civilization. Under the lens of long-termism, present-day human and environmental harm is simply mathematically minimized. As the source explains, these leaders view the current suffering of workers in the Global South as merely a molecule in a drop of the ocean, when compared to the unfathomable goodness of a perfectly optimized sci-fi future spanning thousands of millennia. This deeply anti-democratic ideology allows them to morally justify cracking a few eggs today to make their utopian omelet tomorrow.
Section 5. The True Price of AI. Illusion versus Reality.
There is just a massive chasm between the marketing of AI and the actual manufacturing of it. When we revisit those optimistic claims from the beginning of the documentary, the promises that this trend is going to be incredibly positive for humanity, they suddenly take on a chilling and somewhat sinister tone. Positive for whom? Because it's clear the paradise being built is one to which the millions of data workers cleaning the toxic waste of the internet are certainly not invited.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought to chew on. As this technology scales up, requiring even more data, more compute power, and more resources, after the workers of the Global South have been exploited, after the mines are dug, and the rivers are dried up, who do you think will be the future victims in the belly of AI? It's a critical question we all need to be asking as we